Good evening. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening to learn more about the draft 2024 CVRD budget. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge that we're all gathered virtually this evening from across the traditional unceded territories of the Cowichan, Malahat, Zubasset, Halalt, Penelakut, Staminas, Laixon, Paquachin, Dididat, and Pachidat peoples. I'll start by introducing my colleagues. We have Tracy Bowen, our Chief Financial Officer, who will be the star of the show this evening, delivering the budget presentation. We're also joined by Danielle Miles-Wilson, our CAO, Clayton Postings, our Deputy CAO and General Manager of Strategic Services, and Ian Feidel, I always want to get your name wrong, our Manager of Human Resources for the CVRD. Before we get started, I'll just let you know the format for the evening. Tracy will deliver the budget presentation, followed by a question and answer period. At any time, those in attendance can pose questions through the question and answer function that you'll find on the right-hand side of your screen if you're joining us by WebEx. So feel free to populate that with any questions that you may have as they come to you during the presentation. We'll answer those in the order in which we receive them. And if time permits, we can go through the list of attendees and unmute everybody to pose questions verbally to the group as well. Without further ado, I will pass it over to Tracy.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 2024 draft budget overview. The Cowichan Valley Regional District has 4 municipalities and 9 electoral areas. And for the 2024 budget, we have 178 services. There are a number of competing challenges and expectations that the board must balance when setting the 2024 budget, including how to meet the needs of the public under increasing financial constraints, increasing downloading from other levels of government, resulting in increased pressures to provide additional services, aging infrastructure and increasing construction costs that exceed consumer price inflation, legislative changes and higher requirements for standard of care that put increasing pressures on the existing services, and increasing non-controllable expenditures such as hydro and insurance. The CVRD provides a variety of services to different partners, and therefore the impact of our budgeting process on each electoral area or municipality is different. For example, the cost for the average home in electoral area G, which participates in 27 functions, is $1,076.90. But the average home in Ladysmith, which participates in 20 functions, is $770.93. And Area G also has 3 specified areas encompassing a variety of services such as recreation and fire protection. To complicate matters, some services are provided by the CVRD, others in partnership with other organizations, and some take the form of grants to organizations that provide the service in the area. The CVRD does not provide education, sidewalks, curbs, gutters, roads, policing, healthcare, and highways. These are all provincial services or municipal in the case of road and policing in North Cowichan. For most of our services, taxation is allocated based on assessed value. Each member municipality and electoral area's share is calculated based on assessed values that are provided by BC Assessment. And within this distribution between property classes is determined using a fixed ratio that is mandated under provincial legislation. Requisition represents almost 36% of the total revenue of 2023. The funding of each service is determined by an establishment bylaw, and with so many services, there are a wide variety of funding mixtures. We can, however, broadly categorize the main types of funding for regional, electoral area, sub-regional, and specified area. Regional services are funded based on assessment for all 13 jurisdictions within the regional district and are typically services that benefit the entire region, such as solid waste management or general government. Electoral area services are specific to the rural areas only, and they are therefore shared by all participating electoral areas on an assessment basis with no municipality funding participation. An example of this is community planning, where the CVRD performs a function for the electoral areas, but not the municipalities. The X on the chart indicates that the entire area participates, while the O is a portion of that area participates. Many of our services are sub-regional in nature in that they provide a service for certain areas within the CVRD, and funding is shared by those participating partners, normally on an assessment basis. An example of this is Safer Futures. Specified areas are set up to fund services that provide to a number of properties that do not represent the entire electoral area and are different in that these functions are established in response to petition by property owners to provide the service. A service area is established to encompass the properties that receive the service, such as Saltaire fire protection. While taxation is a major component of the CVRD's revenue base, the CVRD has other revenue streams. Non-taxation revenue streams that are considered as part of the budget process include user fees and charges, permits and licensing fees, reserve funds. The CVRD accumulates operating reserves to protect against variances and unexpected expenditures from year to year, and capital reserves for its long-term asset management needs. Where possible, projects are also funded by grants, and borrowing can also be used for capital purposes. The CVRD in recent years taken advantage of low interest rates to borrow short-term in order to fund capital purchases, but also borrows long-term for larger, longer-term capital projects. As mentioned, service funded with other revenue sources include the Community Health Network, municipal MFA debt, curbside, garbage and collection services, sewer, water, and some street lighting services. The current budget process is incremental, meaning that the current activities and staffing levels are considered as core and used as a baseline for the upcoming budget. This approach uses core expenditures as the basis for the preparation of the draft budget, with respect to changes to existing service levels being treated as supplemental requests to the commissions and committees for their consideration. Core expenditures are defined as those that are required to maintain the current level of service, staffing, and capital, including reallocations of resources within operational budgets that do not require an increase in requisition. Supplemental requests for the purpose of budgeting are defined as items that are in addition to the current staffing and/or service levels, and any capital that requires an increase to requisition or user fees. This includes purchases or capital of new construction, the addition of part or full-time staffing positions, and changes in programs or services requiring increases to user fees or requisition. For the 2024 budget, staff did receive a mandate from the board. The mandate was for 3.5%. This did not include regional recreation, the library, or transit services. 92% of the functions were able to meet this mandate. The board has had budget meetings in 2023 and 2024 and has considered all supplemental requests. With the decisions made to date, the budget includes a requisition increase of 16.08%. The board will then hold a meeting on February 8th and 9th to review the decisions that have been made and propose any changes to the budget before the final financial plan bylaw is brought at the end of February. And here we have a breakdown of the 16.8 where it breaks all out to. So 8.88% is for existing services, 6.17 is for regional recreation, 0.77 was for the library, and 0.26 was for transit. The increase to requisition is discussed as a total number. However, As mentioned previously, the effect on individual properties varies based on a number of factors, including property assessment and property location. Only the participants in a service area contribute to the cost of providing those services. This slide shows the impact of each municipality and electoral area of the proposed 2024 budget of core and supplementals. So there's the 16.08 again. In electoral areas areas G and H in the town of Ladysmith, the largest changes are for general government, regional recreation, and solid waste. The electoral areas will see increases in the library and electoral area services. In area G, the average home will see an increase of $165.98. This chart, which is available on the CVRD website, shows how the tax requisition is broken down by function. Area H, the average home will see an increase of $148.96. And the town of Ladysmith, the average home will see an increase of $232.85. How will a change in your assessment affect your property taxes? If your assessment is lower than the average, the property taxes will be lower. If the assessment is higher than the average, your property taxes will be higher. If you're in the middle with the average, then you'll most likely won't see a change. The most important factor is not how much your assessed value has changed, but how it has changed compared to the average in the other areas. For more information can be found on the CVRD website, and this is the link to it. A number of detailed schedules are available on the CVRD website, providing total budget information as well as detailed financial information on each of the services. The majority of the schedules look at changes in property taxation. Parcel tax information is provided on separate schedules. Schedule A presents the changes in tax requisition. It only shows services that have a change and details the amount of the change for that service. Down at the bottom is the difference between the general tax requisition of 2023 and that of 2024. This does not include the change for local area services, which affect only specifically defined areas. Schedule B shows the change in tax requisition by jurisdiction. The change due to other jurisdictions column reflects the increase in the library requisition. Also, down at the bottom is the increase in the local service area taxes, such as the fire service areas. Schedule C shows the change in requisition going back to 2017. Schedule D has a page for each jurisdiction. It lists only the services that the area participates in and shows a change for that service. Down at the bottom, it includes the local service area taxes applicable for the jurisdiction and the change in those as well. So down at the bottom. Schedule E has a page for each jurisdiction and shows the impact for an average home in that area. Schedule F is a summary of the short and long-term debt. The schedule on our website has not been updated for 2023 debt, as we haven't finished borrowing for the year. The schedule will be updated once year-end has been completed. Similar to Schedule F, Schedule G has not yet been completed for 2023. Finance does not usually transfer funds between reserves until the end of the year. The schedule will be updated when year-end funding transactions have been completed. Schedule G has a portion for capital reserves and a portion for operating reserves. Again, the schedule will be updated closer to the end of the year and with operating results. Schedule H shows assessment by jurisdiction for 3 years. The 2024 completed roll is used for the 2024 budget considerations. Schedule I shows how the requisition for an area is split between the property classes, and there's a schedule for each area and jurisdiction. Schedule J shows the cost of a $100,000 home and shows the portion of the total assessment represented by each area. Parcel tax for sewer and water systems are shown in Schedule K. And user fees for sewer and water systems in Schedule L. It's important to note that an increase in a parcel tax or user fee for a service does not necessarily mean an increase to the property owner. In many cases, new properties have been added to the service area, thus increasing the total amount collected without having the impact on individual properties. These are the detailed budget schedules available on the website. We also have more specific detail on individual services. For each service, there is a summary sheet. It gives a description of the service, lists the amount being requested for requisition, the maximum amount that may be requisitioned, if applicable, and shows the split between the participating areas. This is followed by the proposed 5-year plan for the same function. And lastly, it is the budget detail from our accounting system, showing the actual expenses for 2021, 2022, the budget of 2023, and the budget of 2024. And all of this is available on our website to provide as much information as possible. And that is the end. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tracy. So we'll now move into the question and answer period of the meeting. Want to welcome Director Martman, who's joined us as a panelist. I would give you the opportunity, Director, if you wanted to pose a question before we turn to those in attendance.
No question. Thank you very much for being able to put this out in front of our community, and yeah, I look forward to hearing anything that anybody has to say.
Thank you. Okay, so going to the attendee list now, just in the order in which you appear, I will unmute, starting with Joanne. Joanne, do you have any questions that you want to pose? Sorry, I'm just trying to unmute you here. Oh, I'm going to assume that means no, you haven't accepted the request to unmute. Okay, I'll move down to Lynn. Lynn, I'm unmuting you. There you go. Do you have any questions this evening?
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay, so I have a few questions. I would like to start with the Saltair Water function 640. At the December 14th meeting, it indicated that some of the funding was for Rumble Road, and the Rumble Road was done in 2022. That was presented to us by the staff at a 12th of November meeting here in the community. So I'm not sure why it would be on the list for budgeting. So that would be a question. And another function is Saltair Fire Protection 353. And I noticed that there's a 60% increase over 2023, and I'm wondering if there was any documents to clarify that increase. And the other area is regional recreation. It looks like area G, H, and town of Ladysmith all have extremely high increases over the 2023 budget. It looks like area G is 148% increase. I did attend the Cowichan North Recreation Commission meeting, and it seems that the town of Ladysmith had no capital or reserve funds for Frank Jameson, and North Cowichan had limited resources in reserve funding for Fuller Lake. Neither of them were putting any of the funds for the supplementary issues of both having roof issues, and it seemed that there was nothing coming out of their growing community fund. And I'm just wondering why this hasn't been pursued. North Cowichan's Growing Community Fund was a 7.7 million, and Town of Ladysmith was 3.4, and it would have been appropriate for them to put that towards their roofing needs for both those two buildings. And I'm just wondering why it wasn't pursued. And I think that's, I'm disappointed to see a 21.03% increase for Area G, but I'm sure you guys could hammer it down a little further. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions, Lynn. I'll put it to whoever wants to go first. Perhaps Danielle.
I can work backwards. I think I wrote down a lot of what you sent, Lynn, but I might have missed a few things, but we'll do our best to kind of walk through it if that's okay with you. The most recent one about the reserves and the use of Growing Communities funds, I don't think it would be necessarily appropriate for us to speak on the decisions of other communities. I mean, the Growing Communities funds that were received, the regional district, we were instructed to kind of look at regional projects, but the municipalities, as you would be fully aware, would have at their discretion on the fund how they wanted to distribute those funds. So I don't think we would be bold enough to make any comments on the choices of those communities and how they would make those decisions on the infrastructure priorities in their jurisdiction. I don't know if Tracy has any other comments on regional rec. I see your own.
Not, I concur with you that we can't comment on what other boards have done or decided on. As for I can look into the percentages to see, but it would be because of the different, now that you're paying in more into regional rec, and now we're into the year 2 of the budget. And so it's 2/3 now that is paying. So that's where the biggest increase comes from regional rec, is now it's 2/3, not 1/3. So that's where some of the increase comes from. As for the Saltaire, for the fire hall, I'd have to look into that because it's again coming from North Cowichan's where we get the information from. So I'd have to look into see what the increases were and look through their documentation to get that information.
So I think Lynn was referring to function 353, Saltaire fire protection.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, that is still North Cowichan.
Yeah, well, we do have documentation, Lynn, online. I'm sure you're familiar with the year-over-year analysis, which does talk about the explanations of increases and decreases. If you go onto the website, you can click on those functions and you can kind of get a lot more information about why the change in the 2023 to 2024 year. And I don't know if she's still able to talk, Chris.
Sorry, let me unmute her again here. Just one moment.
Thank you again. The Saltaire fire protection, there is no explanation in the function when you pull it up and go down on it. And
so I see on there an explanation of an increase to contract for services. That's one.
Right, but it's Ladysmith and North Cowichan, and that's a 60% increase seems fairly noticeable, and I think that we should have an explanation as to, is it Ladysmith, is it North Cowichan, and what that increase entails.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I can provide a little bit more information on that. So I think this is one item that the staff have been given direction during the budget deliberations to reach out to the various municipalities that are providing services to the various areas. So that includes Duncan, who provides some services to one of our areas, Lake Cowichan, North Cowichan, and Ladysmith. We did see across the board, all of the municipalities have seen a substantial increase in their costs related to fire services, which included aspects related to fuel, equipment, staffing. And it's a trend that we have seen in each of the municipalities. So the direction that we received from the board is to reach out to the municipalities and have a conversation about what this looks like long term. What are the possible opportunities to have some of these costs brought in, I guess, in a bit more manageable, because this is a big increase this year for sure, and something that we'll be meeting with them shortly to discuss.
Thanks, Clayton.
And the last one, which is the Solitaire 640. This was gas tax funding, and it was for a Solitaire PRV and distribution upgrades. That was what the supplemental was for.
Okay, I think Lynn has a follow-up question. I'm going to unmute her once again.
Thank you very much. Reading the Electoral Area Service Committee meeting of December the 14th, 2023 document for the function 640 Solitaire Water. Part of the involvement in the funding is for Rumble Road, and I'm just stating that Rumble Road was done and finished in 2022. So it seems that they finished with Rumble Road in 2022. It's 2 years later. I don't think they need to go back and redo it. So I don't think it's that. So they might have misinterpreted what they were doing for 2024. That's the distribution upgrade.
I'll have to follow up with staff, because what I'm looking at, it says for PRV and distribution upgrades.
Yeah,
So,
but it goes back to the document of the December 14th when they authorized, when EASC brought that forward.
okay, I have to talk to staff, because I only have what I have. So I could find
Thank you.
staff.
By the way, congratulations, Tracy. It's great to see you in that chair.
Thanks so much, Lynn. I'm going to return to Joanne because I believe she might have just been having some issues with her microphone. So I'm unmuting Joanne once again to pose a question.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Sure can. Go ahead.
Awesome. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for this presentation, and also for the incredible information that's been put on the website. I really appreciate being able to dive in and do some investigation, so it's really helpful. My first question is that I did notice that it's typical for the budget documents, as you've talked about, to provide a year-over-year comparison that includes that explanation of changes. And for the regional recreation function, that comparator information is not on the website. And I'm hoping that that information can be made available, or that can be added at a later date. Unless there's another link that I'm missing, but I know that this is the second year, and so perhaps the comparator information was just missed as a result of that. And then so my question has to do with that actual financial plan as well for function 390, relating to 2024 alone. So I do recognize that we're in the second year of the phased in approach, and we should anticipate the higher budget share. But I noticed that in the prior year budget, the plan for 2024 showed an estimate of 12.4 million. So the current budget is for 3 million higher than that. So I'm just curious if you can speak to the changes for each specific facility that generated that $3 million change over just that 9-month or 8-month period of time.
So the 5-year plans, anything past the budget year is, they do their best at figuring out what they're going to be applying or what they're going to be having happen. But because the budgets are still in a working document, and we wouldn't know what North Cowichan or Town of Ladysmith was going to be doing, or the Sportsplex would have in their budgets of knowing what they're going to be doing for future years. That wouldn't have been in the last year's one when the 2024 was at the 12. Plus there's projects that came up that brought us over, like there's stuff at the CCC, stuff at Carey Park, stuff at Shawnigan Lake, and stuff at Cowichan Lake that we at our board know about, but then there's stuff that happened at the other ones that we don't know about that doesn't get brought to our board. So in 390, I could give you a comparison of what was asked for in one year to the next, but the details of the information of what projects and stuff happen are in the 411, like, which is Carey Park, and 420, 423, 426, which is CCC, 464, which is Shawnigan Lake, Cowichan Lake is 405. All of that information, the detail of the supplementals that are in that, in those functions that kind of filter back to this one.
Okay, so that makes sense that there's emerging changes throughout the year. That I understand that. I wondered if there was some major, obvious, major points of variance that you could speak to, but I can dive into those functions as well to take a look at it too.
The biggest one will be the CCC roof.
Okay, well, that's fantastic. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that is a very big and very expensive project. So yeah, that is where the majority of that change will come from, is from the CC roof.
Okay, perfect. And I think if the comparator information was there, I'd be able to, understand that a little bit better. And so I truly appreciate you being able to help with that. So in terms of the voting rights on these capital projects within this function, I'm still on the regional recreation, sorry. I note that the commissions were established, and the news release notes that our director, McClinton, is a member of the commission that provides governance for Fuller Lake and for the Frank Jameson Community Center. We do pay taxes relating to the other facilities, but it doesn't appear as though we have a say in those other facilities' budgets. Can you clarify that structure for me in that way? Like, are all of the directors communicating about what those changes are going to be, and do we have any influence on those changes, or are we simply subjected to those commission member decisions?
Danielle,
so we do, sorry, Joanne, we do have a section of our website that kind of outlines regional recreation, and there was a previous board decision regarding thresholds for based on the formulas of participation on which directors from which area would be appointed to the commissions. But we happy to kind of put in the chat here kind of a link to a bit more information on the webpage, and there's also a number of board meeting reports that you could take a look at. John Elzinga, who is our general manager of community services, is not here. He's been shepherding the creation of regional rec for the past 7 years, and he's has quite a lot of good explanatory material that's been at a number of meetings. So happy to provide that to you so you can dig into that a little bit deeper.
Okay, I really appreciate that. Yeah, if you could add the link.
I'll just, as we're talking here, I'll just kind of go and find a couple links and I'll drop them in the chat for you.
That'd be very, very helpful. Thank you. And so then in regards to these major capital projects, my theoretical question is, if a new facility is planned or these major capital improvements, I know that the roof is, you've already explained that part, but say that there's a new facility being proposed in an area where we don't have any governance or voting opportunity. You spoke about those thresholds. Will it go to the populace, or will these questions go simply to the commission for their input? When it comes to like a major new facility in an area that we don't have any influence in.
I'm trying to go back in my mind with all the stuff that John Elzinga, who, like Danielle was saying, is the expert on the regional rec, is if it's a new facility wanting to be put in, then I believe it go to everybody to vote on to whether they want it, because it will become part of regional rec, and then it will be the parties that voted it in are the ones that will pay for it. But I don't quote me on that one. I'd have to look that back up, because there's a little bit of nuance on that one because we haven't quite got into that one yet.
Okay, I appreciate it.
I think there is some documentation that I know John has some great presentations and stuff all on all these kind of questions. He does have information on it. I just have to find it for you.
Okay, and that's great. And so I understand that Danielle is putting some links in the chat. How can I circle back to you, Tracy, to obtain that information?
You can contact me at the budget website or budget email. So it's budget@cvrd.bc.ca. That's the easiest, because then it's an email that a few of us get here at CVRD, and then that way we can get back to you.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
The other thing I'll mention is, so John knows the program in and out very well, and so if you send an email to that, we can actually just connect you right to him when he gets back next week, and can give you maybe even save you a bit of time on sifting through some of that information.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that would be fantastic. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And those are all my questions.
Well, thank you so much for the insightful questions, Joanne. I'll move down to Neil, who's with us. Neil, did you want to ask any questions this evening? Sorry, I'm just attempting to unmute you right now, Neil. Doesn't appear to be working. Okay, maybe I'll come back to Neil and I'll attempt to unmute Trevor. Oh, sorry, I appear to have unmuted both of you at the same time. Okay, let's start with Neil, since he was in the chronological order here. I will come back to you, Trevor.
I have no questions to add to those good questions that have already been asked. Very helpful to listen to those questions that have occurred already. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thanks so much, Neil. And coming back to you, Trevor.
Hi there.
Do you have any questions this evening?
I was just hoping, like I see I'm in North Oyster area H, I guess, and I was just hoping to kind of understand a bit better how the 23% will relate to like individual property taxes. Like, or sorry, 21%, whatever we're going up. It just seems like a pretty aggressive number. So I'm just kind of curious.
I'd have to go back there. There's a formula to figure it out, but I don't have that handy right now. But it also depends on how your property values increase compared to everybody else in your group. So like in the areas everybody was going up, then everybody will go up at the same increment. So then it's kind of spread out.
Yeah,
But
I'm
if
just
you
kind
are
of like, so
Yeah.
that's 23%. Is that going to be like 23% more taxes than last year? Because I think we went up like 11% property tax last year too, I believe. So I'm just like, it seems pretty shocking to be going up that much over 2 years.
I'd have to do a calculation, and I don't have that handy right now to give that to you, and I don't want to give you a wrong answer.
Okay.
Trevor, was that your only question this evening? Just kind of a general.
Yeah, I'm
one
just
about
kind
the
of like,
overall?
obviously myself and other young families in this area, like it just seems the costs keep going up, and 21% just seems pretty out there. When I read that, I just kind of wanted to express that, I guess.
Okay, thanks for providing that, Trevor. Appreciated.
And useless.
Tracy, you did mention the video from BC Assessment, which kind of talks a little bit about how things are calculated, and obviously mentioned that that's the average percentage increase based on the average home value for each area too. So like depending on whether your how much your assessment may have gone up or down, if you fall above the average increase, then you'll be experiencing a greater increase, whereas your taxes could potentially go down if you're below the average for a particular year.
Yeah, depending on how where you fluctuate. If yours went down quite a bit, then your taxes will go down. But I know what he's saying. He's wanting to know how that 23% actually correlates to what a percentage increase to his property taxes would be. And I do have somewhere in my notes on how that calculation kind of works. So I have to look back and find that. I provided the YouTube video in the chat of from BC Assessment. And Trevor, if you want to email me your question to the budget@cvrd.bc.ca, then I can get back to you.
Tracy, I don't know, I don't think you mentioned this too, but the percentages are one thing, but you have those schedules that outline the average estimated home tax impact, which is kind of gives people more of a dollar figure based on the average home. So Trevor, I'm not sure if you noticed if that, and I know Tracy went through the presentation, but slides like 19 to 21 that will be posted. And are you in Saltaire or are you in Ladysmith? I didn't catch that part. Did he mention where he was?
He said he was in he's in North Oyster.
Oh, area H. Okay, so yeah, back to Tracy's slide, and the total tax increase for the average electoral H home in 2024 is expected to be $148.96. Director Martman has his hand up.
Sure, please go ahead, Director Marvin.
Thanks. And I think Trevor asked, a question that it probably is a lot of people in this area will ask, because is a very high increase in overall taxes. I'm wondering, Tracy, if it might be useful just to walk through maybe the top 6 things that taxpayers are actually paying for. And I think those you get those right out of the Schedule D or Schedule E. It might be useful just to run those by.
Let me get back to the website. So you're looking for like what the top dollar ones are going to be, or?
Yeah, what if I'm a taxpayer here too, so what are the top 5 things that we're paying for? And and I think after that they drop off pretty quick to pretty small amounts.
Yeah, let's see. So area H. So for area H, your top ones are regional recreation, general government, the Vancouver Island Library, which we all know about. And then then it drops down to electoral area services, and then community parks and solid waste. Those are the big ones that are like $6 and over per change from last year to the next. So the biggest one, regional recreation, is $85.78 is the biggest change in your area from last year to this year. That's the biggest increase, was regional rec. And that's what that 148.96, that's where the biggest increase of that 148 is the regional rec. And all the rest are small, you said.
Thanks for that. I don't know if it helps, Trevor. It doesn't give any, help you when you have to pay the bills. But I think the understanding that regional rec is a decision that was made last year, and we're going to have one more year of a very heavy amount coming to us. So until that's passed by, we're going to see these high percentages, and we'll do our best to try to mitigate those where we can.
Thanks very much, Director Martin. Well, having gone through the list and seeing no more questions in our Q&A portal, I'll thank everybody for attending this evening's session. Remind once again that the recording from this evening will be posted to the CVRD website under the budget tabs for anybody who wants to watch this after the fact. And another plug for February 8th, when the board will have a special committee of the whole meeting to specifically discuss the budget once again, which is always live streamed on the CVRD YouTube channel. So thank you to those in attendance. Thank you to the panelists for making time this evening, and wish everybody a great rest of your night.